Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Write or Die Show. I'm your host, Randi-lee. On the show, we interview other writers and we talk about mental health from their personal journeys. If you have not already hit that like and subscribe button, go ahead, do that now so that you never miss an episode. So, I have some exciting news before I introduce our guest. There is a new design in the merch store, which I'm super excited about. So, the quote. Okay, let me see. I've never done this before. I want to share my screen for all y'all to see it. Hold on. Maybe I can do it. You'd think that maybe I would just like practice ahead of time, but no, that's just not how we roll here at the Write or Die Show. Oh, here we go. I found the button. I found it, guys. I think. Yeah, I got it. Give me a sec. Here we go. Can you see it? We can see it. So lived experience expert. A couple of weeks ago, I had a guest on and we were talking and he came up with that term like, oh, I'm going to steal that. And he's like, you totally can. So I did. And so here is our merch for it. I think it turned out really cool. I hope y'all agree with me. The back has the Write or Die Show's logo. The front's got the lived experience expert with the cool like graffiti look. That's what I was going for, graffiti look. So hopefully everybody likes it. You can go and get it now in the merch store. Yeah, now we'll get on with our regular scheduled program. As soon as oh, look at that. That was easy. All right, let me introduce. Oh, see now, hold on. There we go. Now we're both big. Okay, so let me introduce Suzanne Tracy. Hello, how are you?
Well, hello. Thank you for having me. And that is a cool t-shirt or sweatshirt. Is it a sweatshirt or a t-shirt?
Well, that one's like a long sleeve, but you can get it in different things. So there's like a necklace and a water bottle and a t-shirt. Like you can pick which kind you want for the design. It's so cool. But
okay. Thank you. Cool.
So tell us a little bit about who Suzanne Tracy is.
Okay, that's always so hard. You don't know whether to say what you do, who you are, as a person. But I'll start with I'm a mother. I'm a grandmother who raised two of my 5 grandchildren because of my daughter's mental illness. I was an educator. I had a school where we traveled all over the world as part of our curriculum. I have a nonprofit organization. Yeah, I have a nonprofit organization for grandparents raising their grandchildren or other relative caregivers, offering them support.
Oh.
I'm an avid traveler. I love to travel. I'm married. I'm married 2 years. I'm a newlywed, sort of.
Very nice.
Yeah, and that's me.
I love that. See, that sums up both questions, right? The who are you and like what you do. That sums up everything. Oh, the episode's over. We're done. No. Let's go back. Let's take a little time travel back in your story and start your story wherever makes the most sense. When I read your questionnaire, it definitely piqued my interest. So yeah, let's time travel back.
Okay. You want me to sort of start, just sort of with mental illness a little bit, or?
Yeah, wherever makes the most sense to start your story with your journey of mental illness. Yeah, whatever makes the most sense.
Okay. Because the book I wrote is really about a family legacy. My mother was bipolar, and I suffered from depression from the time I was, probably 14 years old, but 16 years old. I tried to kill myself, and they put me in a mental hospital, for trying to kill myself.
So let's reverse there a little bit. Let's reverse a little bit. What led up to the attempt? Because most times we don't wake up and go, okay, this is day 1 of being depressed. I'm gonna attempt to kill myself. So let's go back a little bit to the precursor leading up to it.
Okay. Actually, my parents had sent me to Israel to discover my Judaism. And when I was in Israel, I had this epiphany that I was going to change my life and stop taking drugs and do well in school. And, and I was really, I had a tumultuous relationship with my father, and he wrote me a letter, and I thought, okay, I'm going to come back. We're going to have this really good relationship. And I got off the plane after being in Israel all summer long. And my parents told me they were divorced. While I was gone.
So they were married when you left and then divorced when you got back.
That's right.
Okay, that's a shocker.
And it was a shocker. And my mother said my being gone was the catalyst to her realizing how unhappy she was in her marriage. And so I felt guilty, and I felt cheated, that I was going to have this relationship with my father. Mm-hmm. And I think just the guilt and the unhappiness that I felt at that time. I was home with my mother, and we were going to go out for dinner, and she said, go up and get dressed. And I walked upstairs, went into her medicine cabinet, grabbed a bunch of bottles of pills, and took them.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so that was sort of the beginning, and I was put in a mental hospital for a short while, and I later became at 17 years old, I became a legally emancipated minor because I couldn't live with my mother because of, because of the friction and just, what was going on in my life. Mm-hmm. It was determined that I shouldn't live with her. Yep. So I became an emancipated minor and went to high school and worked full time and graduated high school and supported myself in an apartment on my own.
Wow.
And so, yeah. And then I met my husband to be. I was 19 years old. I got married, had 2 kids right away.
Okay.
And suffered through depression. Yeah, I suffered through depression throughout my marriage. But I also got a lot accomplished. So I kind of had this, energy.
Isn't that such a funny thing, though? It's a funny thing how we can be depressed and yet we can accomplish so much. And so from the outside looking in, it's like, wow, you've done all these amazing things. And on the inside, you're like, yeah, but I just want to die.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's crazy from the outside looking in what you can't see.
It is. And I have to say, I don't know, your position on medication, but medication really helped me. And anytime I would stop the medication, I would get depressed and in bed. And I really struggled with, I wanted to be a good mom, and I felt I wasn't a good mom, and I was ambitious, and my husband was extremely ambitious and successful. And, I wanted that for myself. And, so, all the things combined or whatever, it just contributed to mm-hmm. my depression. And so, I was married for 27 years, and my daughter became mentally ill. She has schizoaffective disorder.
Oh,
and it wreaked havoc on my marriage.
Probably.
And our marriage ended. He ended up having another family while we were married, and so we got a divorce. And at that time that my daughter was ill, I was starting the school, the school where we traveled all over the world. It was a nonprofit school. And
so how old was your daughter when it first started to show?
18. She was away at college, and she just started acting very bizarre. And she came home after her first semester, and it was like, okay, either you are on drugs or something is seriously wrong. And I had her tested. She wasn't on drugs, and took her to a psychiatrist. And she had a full-blown mania. and
Wow.
rapid cycling bipolar disorder. I don't know, for those that are familiar with this, my members call the Rollercoaster of Mental Illness because it was a roller coaster. She took drugs and didn't want to take her medicine. And so life became really, really difficult. I had to raise my grandchildren from the time they were, 18 months old, two boys. So, the depression just was, my life was overwhelming. My life was overwhelming.
Yeah, that is a heck of a lot going on right there. Okay, so did your daughter end up going back for her second semester, or was she
No,
needing to take care
she
of
couldn't go back. She has been in and out of maybe 20, 30 hospitals. She's in a lockup facility right now.
Yeah.
This has been like 20 some odd years or whatever. So she's in a lockup right now. She's about 45 years old. And yeah.
Wow.
So she never got to go back to school.
Just as a parent, so my situation very, very different, but we did have to make a decision probably about 8 years ago. I'm trying to do math in my head real quick here. But to have our youngest, who has autism and severe depression stuff, he went and lived at a facility. They didn't call it a mental institution, but basically that's what it was. But anyway, so he went and lived there for 3 months. He would come home on the weekends. As a parent, that was one of the hardest decisions ever, because you feel like a failure because I have to send my kid away to get the help that they need. I can't give it to them. And then when you're already dealing with depression, I mean, that just makes it worse. Granted, ultimately, it was the best choice. He's doing fantastic now. So it was the absolute best choice for him. So my question for you is, as a parent, how did you deal with having to make that decision to help your daughter by putting her into a facility or by taking the kids and raising them? Like that's a lot.
It was very difficult. I felt a lot of guilt, I shouldn't have sent her away to school. What did I do when she was younger? What caused this? I have a part of my book of sort of not saying to my ex-husband, but, oh, your mother was, the alcoholic and your aunt was schizophrenic, and, just wanting to blame somebody, blaming God. What the heck is going on? And it was really difficult. And the difference between when your child is under 18 and over 18 is a big difference, because they don't want to tell you anything when they're over 18. You have no rights as a parent, even though you're responsible for them. And, that was extremely frustrating, and they would let her out when she shouldn't be out. And, the guilt. And when I go see her, even now, it's really bittersweet. One of the things about me is freedom is a huge value of mine. And so to have her locked up in a facility I can even get teary-eyed, is heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking for me. For many, many years, everything was on me because my ex-husband couldn't deal with her mental illness. And so I was raising my grandchildren, dealing with her, trying to find her on the streets when she was homeless. She became a prostitute. She was doing drugs. It was, we were constantly sending out search parties for her. And it was overwhelming. And finally, I don't know how many years ago it was, I just called my ex-husband and I said, I'm raising my grandsons who are struggling. They had a lot of anger about me raising them. And I had to fight in custody I had to go to court and fight for custody of them.
Wow, yeah.
And that you think putting them in the hospital is hard. Going to court and saying, she's unfit, it was really hard. And the boys struggled. And finally my ex-husband, I said, you gotta take over Liz. I can't do this. And he finally stepped up, a few years ago, which was, a blessing for me.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So Derek asks, always a hard decision to make, 100%. And
Yeah.
it's, you
Yes.
never know what your decision, what the outcome is going to be, right? So it's like, hey, I'm making the best decision that I can with the information that I have at this time, and I'm hoping for the best outcome, right? Like
Right.
it's quite daunting to try and weigh the pros and the cons and what do I do and did I do everything I could have and all of that stuff. And so going back to what you had said when you were saying about the 18 and over 18, under 18, forgot to ask you, where are you from?
I'm from, well, I grew up in Los Angeles, but I live in San Diego, California.
Okay. So I'm in Canada, if you did not know. And once my kids were probably about 14, the doctor stopped letting us know information. And I'm like, "Hey, but I'm supposed to help them. I'm supposed to make sure that the medications are being taken.
Yes.
Like, how can I do that if I don't know what's happening?" Right? And it's not to say that I need
Yes.
all the information. If I'm taking them to therapy, it's because they need somebody safe to talk to. So I'm not asking for all the info here. Like, I don't need that.
Right.
But to not have the enough information to say, okay, so you're taking this medication because of whatever, that makes sense. Now I'll make sure that you take it. But without having something, it's really hard. And the older they get, the less and less information you get as a parent, and yet you are their caretaker. So it's like we're left in the dark so much. I'm lucky because my youngest,
Yes.
he likes to overshare, the one that has autism. He likes to overshare and tell me everything. And he's like, "Yeah, come in my therapy session." I'm like, "Dude, I pay for this so I don't have to hear it. No, thank you." Um,
Right.
but
Right.
like with the older one, it's like, "Hey, yes, go and talk to her, but at the same time, keep me at least semi basic knowledge in the loop. I don't want to one day walk in when
Right.
you are
Right.
harming yourself because I had no idea that things were so bad or something like that, right? Like it's such a fine line is what I'm saying, you know?
It, it is. It is. And, when somebody has a mental illness, they don't have the capability to make decisions for themselves in terms of, what medication, if they're really ill, I mean, she was in denial about her illness. And she hallucinated.
Uh-oh, you cut out. Oh no. Well, hopefully Suzanne comes back in a minute because that sounded like it was going to be a very interesting topic. So I'm just going to ramble for a minute and hope that she pops back up.
Oh,
Oh,
good. Yes, I
there you
popped
are.
back up. I don't know what happened there.
Perfect. I
Yeah.
just rambled
Anyway,
for a minute.
okay, good, good. She had hallucinations and auditory hallucinations and, wasn't capable, didn't believe that she was ill.
Mhm. That makes it so difficult because, when we're physically sick, we know it. We accept it, generally speaking. I mean, I was almost sick on my wedding day and I was like, I am not sick. And simply because I just didn't want to be sick that day.
Oh,
Right? So like sometimes we
right,
don't accept it. But for the most part, we're coughing, we're sneezing, whatever. We're like, oh, I don't feel good. I need medicine or I need rest, whatever. But yeah, with mental illness, it's this whole other ballgame where no, I don't have that.
right, right. And, I try to explain to people, it would be like if I said to you right now, you're not making any sense. Your thinking isn't clear. You'd be saying, yes, I am, and that's what it is for the mentally ill. I mean, they, to them, they're making sense.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great way to describe it actually. Is they are 100%, they know exactly what they are talking about. The rest of us have got no clue, right? So it's
Right,
such a huge disconnect trying to explain to them that no, what you're thinking is incorrect or you're missing a piece or whatever. I can't understand what you're trying to say. And they're like, "But
right,
why can't
right,
you understand it? I'm making sense."
right. Right. There was a point where I finally, for years and years, it was like, let me just find the right word to get her to see, to go into the hospital, or,
Yeah.
because you can't just have them locked up unless they say they're going to kill themselves, or they're going to hurt you. There were
Yeah.
times I called the police and I lied. I said, yeah, she threatened me, or yeah, she said she was going to kill herself, because otherwise they wouldn't take her.
Yeah.
And
That's the same here.
so
Yep. Exact same system here in Canada with that.
yeah. So, I would always, question what could I say? What could I do? And finally, there was this one point when I finally accepted that I had done everything humanly possible. I had one time, begged her for 2 hours, to get into the hospital because her children needed her or whatever. And for 2 hours, I said everything that I possibly could. And she climbed out the window and ran down the street. And that was the aha moment, when I just said, I have done everything humanly possible. It's got to be on her. Yeah. So, there's got to be a point when you realize that we don't have the control that we wish we did.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pivotal mindset right there. That's huge to go, you know what? I've done what I can, and ultimately it is their decision. So something I dealt with that after my brother died than beforehand, but after he had died. So for those who don't know, who haven't been paying attention to some of these episodes, my brother died by a drug overdose 3 years ago now. Actually, this past Monday. Yeah, this past Monday was 3
I'm
years.
sorry.
Thank you. My mom and I, we went to the grave and visited him, and I made him hold my Starbucks. We thought that was very funny. And so after he died, though, it was this, could I have done something more? Should I have said something? What else could, but then there was that shift of, I'm 4 years younger than him. So what could I have done? Seriously, like in an actual realistic world, could I have done something more? No. But there is always that mindset ahead of time of, could I have? And so until we hit that moment of clarity, let's call it that moment of clarity of, I have done everything humanly possible in my power to have done. It weighs you down. I found that once I hit that moment, I was like, oh, I'm not okay with you being dead. I'm still mad at you for your decisions. However, I'm released of the guilt that I had held on to.
Right. There's a freedom. Yeah, there's a freedom in it.
Yeah. It doesn't make the situation easier. Like, it's still hard, but there is this sense of, I don't want to say sense of relief, but for lack of a better term, this sense of relief.
Right.
So
yeah.
She's been in the hospital. You said it's been around like 20 years or something?
Yeah, on and off. Yeah. They let her out, and then, then we have no control, and, sick again, and then back again. So the cycle, the roller coaster, as I say.
Oh, for sure. So now her kids are obviously much older now.
Yes, they're 22 and 20. So finally, after 40 years of raising kids, my own kids and my grandkids, I feel, free at last.
That's got to be a weird feeling now, though.
It's a good feeling. No, it's because they went through such, it was so hard. Yeah. It was, it was difficult. They were troubled, and they were doing drugs and getting in trouble, and there was legal problems, and I had to send them to, the behavioral schools, and it was, and then dealing with my own depression, through it. It was a challenge. So I feel relieved and feel good that they're doing well, and I made it. They made it.
That's so good. I know dealing with your own stuff is hard on all on its own. And then when you pile on families and wanting to take care of them, especially
Right.
when they're your kids, when they're your grandkids, and you pile that on, it is so hard. And it definitely,
Right.
I know for me, it definitely makes the depression take a big old swing and want to knock you down 10 steps.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You know, and it was different. You know, when I raised my kids, I was married, so I had that support. You know,
Yeah.
I wasn't a single parent, and I didn't have those problems with my kids growing up. You know, they weren't doing drugs, they weren't in trouble. You know,
Yeah.
it was, you know, a nice family life. And so, you know, coming in and being a single, you know, I was actually their mother, their father, their grandmother, their grandfather. You know, I mean, I had to be all of it for them. So it was a tough go.
I feel like our new merch here sums up your life perfectly, actually. Lived experience expert. That's you in a nutshell. Just saying.
Exactly. Oh, exactly. I haven't even got to half of what's going on, you know, in my life or whatever. But yeah,
Wow. So I'm glad
life
to
has been a
hear.
challenge.
Yes, yeah. So I'm glad to hear that, the boys are doing very well. So how is your daughter now?
She's actually doing really well. And I don't think she should be in a lockup facility right now.
Okay.
But my ex-husband is the conservator,
Okay.
and he wants her there. He doesn't want her to get out because he doesn't want her to go back and stop taking her medication. And so we're not, friction's not the word because I've got to leave it up to him. But
Mhm.
so it breaks my heart because I feel like she's well enough to be in like a halfway kind of house, you know, where they
Okay.
give her medication, but she's not locked up, you know.
Okay.
So
Maybe that'll
yeah,
come one day.
yeah, I'm hoping, I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Okay. Well, that's good that she's doing better. Um, and it sounds like you're
Yeah,
doing pretty good.
I am. You know, I'm happy. I'm traveling. I'm, you know, in love, and life is good. You know,
All
life is
good
good,
things.
and you know, and it's all good things. And it's funny, you know, because people will tell me, you know, because there's been a whole lot of other stuff that has gone on in between all this. I've just sort of, you know, condensed stuff or whatever, but um, that I'm resilient, you know, and you know, I see myself as, you know, I don't have choices but to do what I do, you know, even though
Mhm.
everybody always says you always have a choice, but in my mind, in my mind, it's like, no, this is what you got to do, you know,
So
and
my kid, when he was little, he always would say, "But what's my other choice?" And I'd be like, "Well, you don't have another choice. It's bedtime. Like, I don't know what you mean by it's." So then finally you go, "Okay, you know what? You're right. You do have another choice. The other choice is that I take away all of your toys for tomorrow, right?" And so as you're saying there's a choice, technically there's always another choice, but that other choice looks
right,
so bad that we don't consider it a choice.
Ex-
Like,
exactly. Exactly. And that's how it was like, you know, no, you know, I'm not having my grandkids raised in foster care. No, I'm
right?
not, you know,
Like, you're right, there is
you
another choice, but it's
right,
not good.
right, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
when people started saying that to me now that my kid is grown, because he's 17 now. And he used to say that when he
Mhm.
was like 4 or 5, "What's my other choice?" Right? And this cute little toddler
Sure.
voice. And so now people would say, "Oh,
Cute.
don't you have any other choices?" I'm like, "Yeah, I do. But, I don't wanna be homeless, or I don't wanna feel depressed anymore," or, whatever it is. Sure, there's another choice, but why would I do that choice?
Right,
That doesn't even make sense.
right, right, right.
So, I always love to ask, what is some of your favorite coping strategies with dealing with everything?
Uh, um, I know I've heard you ask that question before, so I have an answer.
Yay!
The main thing that I say is, when I'm down or when I don't want to leave the house or whatever, I think about, my life is short, and when I die, do I want to remember my life as like being indoors, depressed? And it really helps me. And I say there's so much to do in life. There's so much out there, and not in here. So that's one of my biggest ones, is thinking about myself, older, dying, and what did I do in my life?
You know what? I don't think anyone has shared that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, that's what I think about. And of course, diet plays a big part in depression. Sweets, I start getting into the sugar, I'm going to be depressed. So, trying to limit my sweets, I'm not very good at it, but I know when I do it, when I follow my diet, I feel a lot better.
Very nice.
I wish I could, I wish I could say, exercise. I know that's the number one, exercise, that's the number one answer, but I'm not very good at exercise,
It doesn't work for everyone.
Yeah. It would work if I did it.
Maybe. But it looks like you got a bunch of sun out there, so that's a plus.
Yes, I do. I live by the ocean, so it's and that's a real healer for me. Living by the ocean is a real healer for me.
That's awesome.
Because there's something about the ocean to me that it makes me feel insignificant. It makes me feel like, there's a big world out there, and I'm just this little speck.
Yeah, well, that's pretty much what we are, right? In the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So now let's talk about this book, Memoir, The Rollercoaster of Mental Illness.
Yes, it's the roller coaster of mental illness through a mother's lens. It's about a family legacy, really.
I keep seeing something kind of in your background. Do you have a pet?
I do. I have a dog. I have two dogs, actually. Is that what you're seeing, my little baby running around?
I must be. Okay, hold up. Reverse. We need to hear about the dogs before we hear anything else.
Okay.
What kind of dogs?
She's part she's part spaniel, part golden. Yeah, she's my baby. She stays by me, but I don't know where she is right now. Maxie. Well, she left.
She's like, they found me out. I gotta run away.
Yeah. She's my baby. I take her everywhere.
Aww. So you said two. So what's the other one?
Yeah. The other one is actually my husband's dog. When his mother passed away, she looks like a gremlin. She's part Chihuahua, part poodle, and I don't know what happened to her because her sisters and mother were white, beautiful poodles, and she came out all gray with straggly hair and crooked teeth and whatever. But she's the sweetest dog ever, but a gremlin.
Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah. Yes, I know you have a dog, right?
I have 3 doggies and 4 kitties. They have their own TikTok channel.
Oh my goodness! Do you live on? Do you live on a farm with so many animals?
I wish I could. I don't think I could ever get my husband to move to a farm. He is a city boy. No, but we do have quite a large house. So the cats pretty much live on the upstairs level. The dogs pretty much take the main level, and then we got a nice sized yard for them to go run in.
Nice.
If I had a farm, I would also have horses. But I don't think my husband will ever go for that one. We'll see, though.
We had horses for a little bit. I had the boys, learning how to ride and to do that. So for a little bit, we were on, like, I called it a little mini ranch. It was like 3 acres with a couple of horses or whatever. It was cool. It was cool.
I would love that. Yes, my youngest and I, we go horseback riding. There's a barn probably about 15 minutes from us or so, and we go ride there. It's awesome.
Western or English?
I never remember. The one that doesn't have the knob.
Oh, English. Okay. Okay, English.
My husband, though, I've gotten him on a horse once when on our honeymoon. And he will never go on a horse again. He calls them giant death machines. So.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, I digress as always. So the roller coaster of mental illness. Tell us.
Yes, through a mother's lens, and it is a story of my family legacy. My great aunt committing suicide by jumping off a building, my mother with bipolar, my depression, my daughter's illness, and the struggles with the boys. So it kind of goes through that whole period. And in it, I talk about I was engaged, and my fiance passed away from cancer, during that period. And just from the stress of raising the boys, dealing with my daughter's mental illness, dealing with my fiance's cancer, him dying, I got physically ill and I had to be hospitalized, and I was in the hospital for 5 weeks and had to had to have my own caregiver because the illness attacked all my muscles, and I couldn't walk, and I couldn't swallow. It attacked attacked all of my muscles. And so it just kind of goes through the whole thing of, my marriage, my divorce, the closing of my school, just, my whole life.
Oh, that is a lot.
And the challenges, it is a lot. And it ends with really the blessings in our life and what we have to, what things we have to appreciate, and I was very blessed that I had the financial resources to deal with my grandsons, to deal with my daughter's mental illness, and my heart breaks for those that don't have the resources to get the medical help that they need, or so it really ends on a note of, blessings.
That's good. Yeah, because that sounds like a very difficult story, and then knowing that it's true, oh my goodness. So I'm glad that it ended well, and I know you now, so I mean, I know that you're doing well, so that is also quite helpful. Where do we get this book?
Where do what?
Where do we get this book?
It's actually at the agent. It's actually at the agent right now. So it's not a published version yet. It's not a published version yet, but it is with the agent, and hopefully soon.
Oh, that's exciting. So where do we follow you to figure out, like, keep up to date with the release?
Okay. Well, right now, I guess the best way that people could get in touch with me is through the nonprofit, Alliance of Relative Caregivers, .org. And it's exactly as it's spelled, Alliance of Relative Caregivers.org. And so they can get on that and, send an email or whatever, and I'll put the information out.
Perfect. I love that. Do you have any last words to share before we say goodbye?
Just, thank you so much for this opportunity to, sort of share my story. And for those that are still struggling, sometimes it gets better, sometimes it doesn't, but we need to count our blessings and look at the good things in our lives, and not focus on the illness or the struggles in our life. I guess that's what I want to say.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your very much roller coaster of a
Thank
life.
you.
As always, thank you so much for the amazing guests that we have on the show. Be sure to check out their links down in the description below. If you want to support the channel, go ahead and check out our merch store. We've got some very cool things on there. That's my favorite. Sorry, I'm busy ending the stigma. But there's some other very cool designs. 10% of the proceeds always goes back to the Canadian Mental Health Association. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at RB Media because we have some great new shows coming up and you never want to miss any of those episodes. And remember, the only way to end the stigma of mental health is to speak openly and honestly. Bye.